Hello there, I'm neurodivergent existential psychologist Jason Diaz, and today I'm here to talk to you about authenticity, congruence, and sled dogs. We can look at the self as a divided self. Studies of people with split brains, for example, show how easy this is. When the corpus callosum is severed, each half of the brain acts as a sort of independent human being. You can even remove an entire hemisphere of the brain and be left with a functional person. There are many ways of dividing the brain and mind. The executive functions in the frontal and prefrontal lobes might be most responsible for bringing all of these parts together into the illusion of a unified whole, making you think that you are one single being with one sole intent. Our modern belief that you are the thing in your head that thinks in words and with consciousness might be counterproductive to this integration, heightening the perception that there are things in your head that in fact are not you. In short, we're each we're each one being made up of many divisions. When we function well, those subsets of us are pulling together. When we function poorly, they pull in different directions. Authenticity is sometimes seen as one single construct, a trait that we have rather than a state that we are in. It could be summed up as honesty or self honesty or rigorous application of one's values or principles. In other words, synonymous with integrity. I prefer, though, to think of authenticity as a sled team with winning potential. We need to integrate here the idea of congruence. Congruence is when your thoughts, actions, and words line up and are appropriate to the environment in which you find yourself. It might be odd to think of some parts of authenticity existing outside your person, but bear with me. If you're an elementary school teacher, seeking adult friendships in your classroom is probably incongruent if those thoughts and feelings do not serve the age environment you're in. Teaching history from a conspiracist perspective might be wonderful college material, but is unlikely to serve third graders well. We can take this idea of congruence a little bit further. We're made up of so much more. Inside us, we find our subconscious or unconscious or preconscious minds, which are all more or less catch all phrases for everything going on below the threshold of effortful thought. This might include how we process our senses, how our brains work through spatial problems, the tasks we're doing on autopilot, all the memories we sift through moment by moment, with this moment as a template, our dreams for the future, our anxieties and dreads, our aspirations for self, and much, much more. In this moment, likely we are a team of sled dogs, all pulling in different directions. Perhaps there is work to be done, and our aspirational self wants to be responsible, while our anxious self would rather scroll Facebook endlessly. These two parts of us pull in different directions, and our sled moves in one direction or the other, but probably slowly. We think we've mediated this with our conscious mind, and so we blame ourselves when Facebook wins out over getting those papers graded. But the real blame lies with the whole self for not more consciously integrating all these selves into one coherent team. Knowing yourself would be the first step towards this type of authenticity. What do you want? Not just with the frontal lobes that know their responses are being judged, but really with all of your mind. That answer probably includes some unsavory ideas, but they have to be brought to light as much as the good or wholesome parts of our thought. So, what do you want? How and who do you want to be? How is your next action going to take you closer to that goal or further away? Now you can begin to bring your actions and words in line. When you speak and act in accordance with how you feel and what you know, with what you want and want to want, you have started to pull as a team. You're that army of one that you've heard so much about. It might be authentic to spend the morning on the couch watching TV if your principles and emotions have lined up with your deeds and environment. It might be authentic to lie to your family if you value their feelings over pure, unquestioning honesty. A good friend of mine once said, authenticity is not a moral code. Indeed, it is not, when constructed in this manner. Rather, it's a way of being intentional. Authentic people might not be better than inauthentic ones. It could be said that Adolf Hitler rose to power because of his authenticity. All his dogs were pulling his sled in one direction, at least in the beginning. Just as smart people might not be better people, there needs to be some integration of empathy when judging goodness. I'm neurodivergent existential psychologist Jason Diaz, and if you've liked this little bit on authenticity, consider dropping by my website, jasondiazauthor.com.